Hello and welcome back to another episode of Transport Fever 2. We're here in Brookshire County on our machines train line that we put together in the last video. And in this video, we're going to continue monitoring our machines line as a whole, as well as expanding a few cities that desperately need some attention. And so as we can see here, we have our train line doing pretty well. It's almost entirely full of resources. Now this is just the one single train that we have running back and forth, but it's been able to make one or two trips across the map, and we're starting to finally see all the resources it's demanding and what it can handle pretty much. So I think let's just give this train a moment to make its way all the way down to the station. We'll see how much money we get off of it, and then from there we'll take a look at everything as a whole and begin to balance things out across the whole line. We'll set some line rates that we'll probably need, and then just make sure everything functions smoothly through every portion of this supply chain. Alright, so we have our train pulling into the station here now. Hopefully we've given it enough space to fit the full way in. It looks like we might have to make this a little bit longer to fit a train of this length, but we can at least see how much money we got off of that. About 4 million. It's going to be tight finance-wise, it seems like, but I think overall we might be okay with this. We'll have to closely follow this train and make sure we are making money, but given the fact that we're moving resources in both directions, I don't really see there being too much of an issue in terms of money and finances. Alright, so as we continue letting this train go back and forth, before we go ahead and add another, let's take a closer look at the towns that we're delivering in, and then we'll determine a machines rate that we should target for each area, and then use that as a jumping off point farther in the future when we connect these machines factories to a larger network that can reach more than just one city at a time. And so taking a look at Tacoma here, they would like 230 machines. Now I'm not sure exactly where that is. We'll take a look at that farther in the future. And then this one, which is going to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh needs 550 machines, but I think just for the sake of keeping things equal, if we can target roughly 200 as a starting point on each side, I think we'll be very happy with that. So starting off here in Tacoma, let's find our truck unload stops, and it looks like all the machines are in one spot, so they're all concentrated right here in this area, which means really all we would need is this machines line to be able to handle 200 machines, which doesn't seem like we're that far off. We might just need one or two more trucks to get us to that point. So right there, 209. That looks pretty good from that. And then here in Pittsburgh. Now the issue with Pittsburgh is I believe we're also getting machines from this factory, so it's going to be a little hard to figure out exactly how this is going to balance out. But right now this line says it can move machines at a rate of 173. Again, we'll do the same and get probably 2 or 3 more vehicles on this line until we're just above 200. And now let's just make sure that this is delivering where all the machines are. It looks like all the machines in Pittsburgh are located along this edge of the river. And I believe this is our stop that we're delivering to, which looks to be about half of the overall machines that are being requested. Now that does compete, I believe, directly with the machines that we're delivering here. So we might actually just move this over a street or two just so we get a bit more coverage where this one isn't able to reach. But that way we should still be able to reach 200 on this end of the machine's line. So we'll let things shake out. On this line, we might have to come back and double check our numbers farther on down the line. But I think we can start to take a look at the train line here, and this is a rate of 176. Now what's interesting about this number is we do have to, I believe, cut this in half since we have an unload on each end of the line. This rate calculates basically for the whole line, so from this station all the way to the other station and then back to here. So that's how that gets calculated. So I believe we have to cut this in half to get an accurate number of resources that we're moving. So if we're aiming for 200 on each side, I believe what we want is 400. And then taking a closer look at the machine's line itself, because it takes 2 resources to turn into 1 machine, I believe we have to double it again. And so if we want 200 machines, we have to aim for a rate of 400, but because it's on each end of the line, we have to double that again, and this train line should be aiming for a rate of around 800. And so hopefully I did that math right. If not, we'll probably be ending up wasting a fair amount of money since we would essentially be doing double if I did the math wrong. But for now, I think we'll just get 1 extra train going. It's not going to be really worth it until we even get all of our supporting lines up to that speed. So I think we'll take a look now at the steel mill. And so for the steel mill, we want this to be producing at a rate of, I believe we want this at a rate of 400. It's getting a little hard to keep all this in my head. We should probably write this down somewhere to make this a little bit easier to follow, but we're just going to keep going with this logic. I believe this steel mill needs to target a production of 400, which means because we're bringing in 2 of each resource, we again have to double that. And so our iron line and our coal line should be moving at a rate of 800. And so for our iron line, we're almost there. We're at 519. And so we'll just duplicate a couple of vehicles until we get closer to 800. And there we go. A few more vehicles later, we get up to 809. And then as for the coal side, currently we're moving at a rate of 650. So hopefully we don't need too many more vehicles to get us to 800. And a nice even 50 vehicles in this line will get us to 811. So then moving farther up that line, all the way up to here, we need to make sure that our trucks in our iron mine and our coal mine are also moving at a rate of 800. So taking a look at this one's moving at a rate of 677. I think we'll still continue using just this 1 truck stop just for this one. If we need to expand farther on, we do have this truck stop here we could tap into, as well as this one here. But I don't think the demand that we're going for necessitates going to those other stations quite yet. So then bringing that logic to this coal mine, this is going to be a little bit different, especially since these roads limit us to 10 miles an hour, which really stinks, but I do think it provides an interesting challenge, as I think it is realistic that these roads are pretty slow speed. I don't think you'd be necessarily going 30 or 40 miles an hour on a road that takes you down into a deep pit mine like this. So we might have to end up duplicating a good amount, but each of these lines we should target to be at about 400. and then we should be moving enough coal at that point. Alright, and so each of our coal lines is at a rate of 400. One thing we will do, well, it doesn't seem like it's too much of an issue. We did have an issue of our trucks lining up in this truck station, but it looks like things are going fairly smooth. I was going to suggest switching to just allowing our trucks coming out of the mine to unload at any platform, but it looks like as long as it's not causing issues at the moment, we can leave it as it is. And so that's the steel side of things balancing out. It's going to take a while before we start to see that actually filter through, as it seems like all of our trucks are coming from this steel mill. So we'll have to turn up the speed and hope that they can reach their destinations before the video ends, before we can start troubleshooting everything and confirming that our math was correct. But now we can move on to the sawmill side of the math, which should be a little bit simpler considering it's a one-to-one resource conversion. If we want 200 at each machine's factory, we should target 400 at the sawmill, which means these trucks coming from the forest down to the sawmill should be moving at a rate of 400. So we'll just have to get maybe 5 more trucks. 4 more will get us just to 400. We'll do 1 more just to have a bit of a buffer. And I believe that's all we have to do on the sawmill side of things. And so things should start filtering through. Again, it is going to take a while for these trucks to move, but while we wait for that, I think we're going to take a look at some of our cities and continue expanding them and making sure that they have an ample amount of space to effectively expand. Alright, so I think the cities we're going to expand are the ones that we're going to start providing with machines, given that that will give another boost to the target population. And I think we're going to start here with Tacoma, as this is actually starting to become one of our smaller cities on the map, just given that we haven't really given it the time or space to really grow. So you can see our target population is up to almost 9,500, but we're currently only at 5,500. And we can see the city has grown pretty steadily, but it's pretty obvious that there's not that much room, and this could go up much quicker if we give it the actual space that it needs. And so I think the goals of expanding Tacoma is filling out this area here. We had this really loose grid that we built out quite a while ago at this point. So I think I want to fill this out, maybe build out some of the area along the water here, and then maybe even a few more blocks in this area, as it seems like the city wants to expand down this way. So we'll also take a look at that. And then I think we could also maybe make a few connections across the highway here and maybe see what that's going to look like. We won't go too far, but maybe just having a few bridges across here to sort of lay the groundwork of what that could look like could serve us pretty well. So I think we'll get started on those expansions, and then hopefully when we come back, Tacoma will have a pretty good amount of space to grow into. Alright, and so I think this is going to do it for Tacoma. It wasn't too much of an expansion. We did fill in these larger lots here as best we could. The terrain's a bit difficult in this area, so we didn't end up connecting these roads. Otherwise, we end up with these huge steps sort of in this street, and that would sort of make it look unrealistic with the buildings along this road. So we sort of just have these dead-end streets here, which I think I'm okay with for now. We'll have to take a look at that when it fills in, and we can take a look at what our bus routes and truck routes can do in that area. But for now, I think it's okay. And then as for building out to the water, we really just extended these streets across at the moment. We'll see how these also fill out before we add some grids or any other sort of features in this area. And then we have this section, which we didn't really do much with, but we did add sort of these two main roads that we can in the future build off of. And we got rid of the industry, so there shouldn't really be any more AI building in this area. But hopefully they will fill out these streets. And then lastly, we made a few connections across the highway here. I'm not sure, for instance, how these roads are going to connect back to this road, but I think at least having sort of these borders defined and then a few streets that just come across here should do pretty well for us. And then the other city that we're going to take a quick look at here is Pittsburgh, which I don't think there's too much for us to do at the moment in terms of expanding. What we could do is maybe build this section out another block or two, and then maybe we just extend this road a bit farther down the river, but it doesn't look like the city's filling in these streets, so I don't think there's really a need to extend our roads out this way much more, but I do think it would be beneficial to maybe fill in this section of land a little bit more. And so let's quickly do this, and then when we come back, we can start to head back to our machines line and take a look at how that's doing. Alright, and I think that little bit will be all that we do in Pittsburgh for now. I know there's a lot more areas that could use some attention, such as moving up farther this way or up this way along the river a bit more, but I think this area for now will at least give Pittsburgh some relief to grow a bit more. We can see it's starting to get a little bit stagnant in our jobs and shopping facilities, so at least having this little bit of area here where our industry can continue to expand out will help a little bit with the overall growth of the city. Alright, so for now I think we can take a step back and maybe come back to our machines line. We can take a look and see how things are going. I'm sure they've made at least a few trips while we've been expanding those cities. If we look at the finances, we might be able to start getting a decent idea. Yeah, it looks like we're actually losing money on this line. I'm not sure entirely why that would be. I think just because our resources haven't quite caught up just yet. Because if we see this train here isn't carrying anywhere near a full load of resources, so I think we just need that demand to continue building up. We can see our steel mill is slowly rising. It's up in about the 250s. Again, we want to be at around 400, ideally for that. it looks like we'll have a decent amount of steel ready for this train as it comes in. And then our sawmill, this is still down around 200, but it looks like that might be because we're just not delivering enough logs. And so maybe let's see if we just don't have enough trucks, but it looks like it says we have enough. We're moving at a rate of 400. Maybe our trucks just haven't been able to make these deliveries quite yet. But we are sitting at about 200 at the sawmill, which is about half of what we want. But I think actually what our problem is it's 2 logs for 1 plank. I guess we didn't catch that when we set that up. So really we need double the amount of trucks on this line. So we need this to be at 800. So that would explain our issues. We'll just duplicate the entire line. Realistically, that should just double this number. Yep, 825. And now we are going to have to wait for all of those trucks to come out of this truck depot here. But hopefully that was part of the issues we were having, and we can start to have that sorted out. Our steel mill does have some issues, it looks like. For some reason, I think we're getting a bit of a queue at this truck station. I think because it's only allowing 1 truck at a time to enter this segment of road. So I'm not quite sure how we can resolve that. Maybe we can have another entrance elsewhere along here. I think maybe if we try to have some on each end here, that might help. We'll try to get the right road in. So if we do something like that, maybe that helps. It looks like those are still going in that road, and these are... Let's just try switching where these are coming in. That might help. Doesn't look like that's quite helping. Alright, and after a little bit of switching around, hopefully this will work out better. So we have a dedicated station, 1 for unloading coal, 1 for unloading iron, and hopefully this will work out. We'll just have to sort of wait and see, but it does look like they're able to just take in all those trucks all at the same time. But again, we're really not going to see the effects of that until we just give it some time. I'm pretty confident that this will work out much better than what we were doing before. And so again, as we continue to wait, let's just double check that our numbers are still fine. Our rate numbers. So this is down to 400. I believe what we wanted was 800. Maybe we have to give that a little bit of time to catch up. But this line is doing just fine getting the iron up and out of the mine. Could probably just use 1 more truck just to make sure we're consistently over 800. And yeah, it looks like this line is still just not reaching the 800 that it needs. That could be due to the fact that we just switched around the line. So we're not going to do anything too crazy. We'll just add a few trucks and then we'll check in on it in a few minutes. Just in case it was just a calculation error. And then as for these coal trucks, these are also pretty low. We want those to also be at 800. So maybe something got switched around, or maybe our line rate wasn't as good as it was telling us it's supposed to be. We'll just throw on a few more vehicles. And we'll do this slowly so that we don't end up with the same error that we got before. But yeah, here it looks like we're at the point where we're starting to see some of our trucks begin queuing up. And these look like they're the trucks that are heading out to the steel mill. So we'll give them the option to use a second platform just to help clear them out of here a little bit. But we're not going to allow all 4 because I don't want to just flood the system with a bunch of trucks, but that should help get more trucks through this area faster. Alright, so while we wait yet again for these trucks to continue moving out and around and updating our line rates, I think let's come to this sawmill and we'll do a little bit of detailing for this industry. So while we wait for our line rates to continue balancing out, we'll work on this and then we should be back here shortly. Alright, and so this is our sawmill area. I think it looks pretty good. I like the trees and all the other stuff that we were able to sort of put this in context. I like this gravel road that we have coming up to this train station. Seems like it would make sense, probably having just like a few trucks driving up to deliver the planks up to the train station. But I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Hopefully now we can take a look around and see that some of our trucks have started to spread out around their lines. So first, let's start off with our sawmill line, and it looks like this is up to almost the 800 that we need. We might just need to get like 2 more trucks, and that'll get us just about there. So right under 800. 1 more will get us right over. And then the big ones are 2 lines that come to the steel mill. So our iron line, that looks like that's back up to 800. And then our coal line looks like we went a bit over. So it looked like our line rates were fine the first time around when we set them. I think it just took the game a second to recalculate the line rates. So we'll just have to sell some trucks until those are back to normal. We'll probably sell just 3 more and maybe just leave it at the 840 that it says it's at. But I think we definitely, if we ever have a need to have more trucks on a line, I think it would be on this iron line. So we might just get an extra like 4 trucks on this line anyway, just to make sure we're always going to have consistent flow of iron coming out of this mine here. But I believe everything is now moving the way it should. It is going to take a while for those resources, especially the ones coming from this iron mine by truck, to reach their destinations. So I don't think we're going to be able to see the results of this in this video, but hopefully early in the next video we should be able to finish off balancing these lines, and we'll be able to have a pretty good view of where we stand with that. And so let's just take a look and see where we're sort of ending off here. So our steel mill is slowly creeping up. We're almost approaching 300 on the production side. And then for the sawmill, we are pretty closely gearing up towards 400, which is exactly where we will want to be for that. And then as for these machines factories, our one near Tacoma is at about 125. It's probably going to keep dropping until the next train comes, which doesn't look like it's coming anytime soon. It's just about to reach the steel mill. So a rough estimate average, we're probably getting around 100 machines coming from that area. And then as for the machines factory on this side, this one is also sitting around 100, but this one did just get a load of resources dropped off, so this might continue to tick up until it runs out of those resources. But I think while we have the chance, I think let's get a 3rd train running on this line. Now, financially this might not be the best idea because, as we can see, we still haven't proven that we can make money on this yet. But with our train depot down here, we can have 3 pretty evenly distributed trains across this whole line. And if we look at our projected line rate of about 600, I believe we should, well, I guess that might be overshooting it if we're going for 200 on each. Or maybe it's just right. Again, I'm not too sure how the math is shaking out here. But I think we'll stick with 3 trains, and we'll leave it at 3 trains until we know for sure how the math stacks up with that. But I believe we either want this rate at 400 or 800 if we want 200 machines from each end of this factory. Alright, so this should be a pretty good spot to leave off this video. We'll take a closer look at everything we've done so far, and then when we come back, we'll talk about some next steps and future projects. Alright, and so now that we're back, let's talk about some of our next steps and future projects for the area. So starting here, we have this sawmill pretty well detailed, so I'm happy with where this is. The only other industries we really need to detail on this line is the steel mill and then the two machines factories on each end, but we might wait for those to see, because ultimately we might build these out a bit more to connect them to some of our larger networks. So we might wait until we get those stations in play before we start planning out how these are going to look when they're fully finished. But we have Tacoma here. It looks like it's rebounding. It looks like it's back to where it was before we built all these roads, but there is plenty more space for it to build out. So we should see this pop up, I'd say probably close to 6,000 before it runs out of space. But that's looking good. And there's some other cities that I think we could further expand on. I think I'd like to see Tacoma or Lincoln expand a little bit, maybe all the way up until this road, start to fill out some of these empty spaces with a bit more lower density building. It looks like over here would be residential, so maybe we build almost sort of suburb type housing out here. Now this is all industrial, so maybe this ends up turning back into grids for the industrial buildings. I'm not too sure, but then over here we get into more commercial buildings. I'm not sure what kind of road layout would look good for these commercial buildings, but I'm sure we could find some sort of lower density type of building to fulfill that need. But since we do have, I believe it's 8 or 9 fairly large cities on this map, there's always cities we can expand. We just sort of have to pick and choose what we want to grow as they go. Salt Lake City is finally starting to expand onto this island, so maybe soon we start to take a look at what we want this end product to look like. I believe the way we set it up was this side of the street can be all these plopped buildings, and we'll just sort of use people magnets to generate demand, and then this side can be the residential buildings that we have the city automatically populate over here. So we get a bit of a sort of organic feel here with the AI buildings popping in, and those will be able to grow and turn into towers. And then we have the beachfront side, which is a more designed area where we can use a lot more of these regular building or custom ploppable buildings to make this area much nicer. But overall, I think our cities are doing pretty well. Checking in, Portland is actually pretty much right where it needs to be. We're almost right on the target population, so it's nice to see that. Again, we have this sort of ugly end of Portland that we could probably make look nicer with some street grids and such. We just still haven't gotten around to it, but that is on the list of things to clean up. It's just not too pressing since all it is just streets for more building, so it's not any sort of terrible need that we need immediately. But other than that, I think everything else is seeming to do pretty well. I believe Roswell is another city that we wanted to take a look at here shortly, since there's a lot of potential for growth. There's just a lot of space that we can fill out with roads, especially with it starting to take matters into its own hands here. So maybe in the next video we'll take a look at Roswell, since there's a lot of potential in and around these areas. And so I think with that, we're going to end this video off here. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or feedback, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.